So in reality, you have to pick and choose from the Bible. It is I, John, here in the fabulous John Studios, having my morning cup of coffee. I recently saw a video interview with Dan McClellan, who I am a major fan of. I really love Dan's work. It absolutely does clarify lots of things for me personally, and probably not in the way that he would like, but definitely clarifies a lot of my own beliefs. And there are some things he says that I agree with. There's most things I say I agree with, and I generally bow to his scholarly approach to the Bible. There are some things in there that I think that I come away with a very clear understanding that the Bible itself is nothing but interpretation. But he did an interview recently saying basically you can't cherry pick the Bible. And I think that that's absolutely wrong. And the reason I think that that's absolutely wrong is because when you look at his scholarly approach of it, he says, scholars agree on this, scholars don't agree on this. Then he talks about Genesis 1 and 2 being at odds with each other because they're completely different. And when you look at the Bible itself, the Bible is a mishmash of interpretation. It's a mishmash of editing and translation and manipulation. And the reality of it is that when you look at the Bible from the perspective of the type of life you want to live, there is a very specific direction. There is a very specific direction in there that you can find. But it's only if you're cherry picking. You watch my videos and you know that I very much will pull the phrases and the lines out that I like, that I believe in, right? Dan says that when you look at even the book of Genesis 1 and Genesis 2, scholars think that they don't come from the same text. They think that they're completely at odds with each other, and because of that, they don't believe they believe that Genesis itself is a compilation. So you really have to cherry pick the Bible. There's no choice but to cherry pick the Bible, because the Bible is a compilation of writings from all different people who all had different agendas, right? That's why when I talk about reading the Bible or the Quran or the Bhagavad Gita or any of the holy books and holy books that are over there, I always say put on your love goggles. Because if God is love, then you have to read the loving parts. The fearful parts of the mind of man. The fearful parts are the things that are man trying to appease God or gods, depending on your point of view. When you look at the Bible itself, it's such a contradiction in so many places. Judas hung himself after the crucifixion and casted the 30 pieces of silver back to the high priest. Another book says he took the 30 pieces of silver, he bought a farm, and one day while farming his field, his guts gushed out all over the field. Right? There's far too many contradictions in that book for you to take it as a infallible object or an infallible source. You have to cherry pick it. But when you look at the words of Yeshua, ye are gods, you're the children of God, greater works than I've done you will do, right? And then you go over to Buddha. Buddha talks about, coming from your own self-discernment. You have to discern for yourself. believe no one, even me, It comes back to the idea that you have to use your discernment on all the books. I find loving things and truthful things that hit my soul as true everywhere. Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, Marvel movies. I find these little quotes that just hit me as just complete truth, and I recognize it as my truth. I think that every text you ever read will be read through your own discernment or your own fears. If you are a fearful person, you will lean into the fearful aspects. But if you want to live a loving life, you have to look at the loving things and live into the loving things. And the Bible's filled with fearful judgment and anger and slavery and subjugating women and all these things. None of that's loving. But it also talks about loving one another. I leave you one commandment, love one another. It comes back to that place of being compassion, being love, being the oneness of God, and understanding that, the Father and I are one. The Father and you are one. That we're co-creating this world, and the world we're creating is the world of our choice, and the world of our choice can be loving or fearful, which means when you read the Bible, you have to use your own discernment and aim towards the loving teachings. If you're focused on the fearful aspects, you're creating that into the world. If you're focused on the loving aspects, then you're creating that into the world. So you have to cherry pick the Bible. There's no choice. The Bible is an ancient text which should never be taken as a complete model for how you live your life. Because if that is the case, men would never have hair longer than their shoulder, because the Bible said so. Paul said so. You would be mainly celibate if you're following God. You'd be okay with owning slaves, and you'd also be okay with beating them, right? You'd believe in a God who would send 2 bears to kill 42 children because they made fun of a bald man. It makes no sense if God is love. And so when you come from that perspective of God being love and looking through the goggles of love, you can read those stories in the Bible and know that is not God. That is not God. That's fear-based judgment and harshness being sold to the masses to keep them in line. And so, yes, cherry pick the Bible. Cherry pick the Bhagavad Gita. Cherry pick the Quran. Cherry pick every movie. Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, Highlander, Good Will Hunting. Cherry pick them. Because you will find truth in all of them. You will find love in all of them. God is too big and too beautiful and too simple to be encompassed by the mind and rules of man. Because man subjugates themselves with their own fears. So that's my thought on this. You guys have a great day. And I'll talk to you soon. See ya. Bye.